I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky.
Hello, welcome back.
Welcome to Nuff Bullshit.
Another episode of Nuff Bullshit here.
Yep.
Today's a special one. We have our first real guest that who's we haven't known before or haven't talked to before. It's next level stuff here.
It's the next step. Hey, you don't usually get to when you're on an Uber ride. You don't really get to know sometimes they're quiet, you don't get to talk to them, sometimes you get to know them, but we're going to get to know our former Uber driver really well today. Mark, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's glad you're here. It's
For my first question for you guys though, but before you start, are we Habs fans here?
No.
Our tech guy might be, or it might be somebody's.
I'm looking around. I'm just I feel out of place, being a Leafs fan.
I'm a Leafs fan, so
I'm gonna get lynched or something.
No,
on my way out.
No, I'm a huge Leafs fan too, so
that's good.
Yeah, I don't know why that's here.
We should actually get that out of here, Braden. I don't want that to start any other. that could.
Also, I'm a big fan of this fireplace. It reminds me of a wood oven for pizza. I would totally want to cook pizza in that.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
No, seriously, it's a
you ever been complimented on your
fireplace?
On your fireplace before?
It's huge. It legit looks like a fucking oven, though. Look at it.
No, it does.
You can imagine some Italian guy rolling out some fucking dough and putting the sauce on it, just sliding it in.
Hey, we can try it later.
It's a minute. You wait. Yeah.
So you still driving with Uber?
Yes, I'm still driving for Uber. It'll be almost a year now, actually. Wow. In February. So I started February last year, simply because I was bored, jobless, and there's not much to do in Niagara on the Lake, which is where I'm currently living.
I'll be honest, I've thought about it. I didn't have the car requirements.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, but no, it seems like a relatively decent way to make some side cash or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's easy driving. I mean, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to drive in Toronto. I was born and raised near Toronto. I grew up in Markham.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want to drive downtown.
No.
I do enough downtown driving and I hate it.
Yeah.
As is, why would I fucking want to do it and get paid for it and have customers being at least down here, I know that the customer base is either going to be tourists in Niagara Falls, tourists in Niagara on the Lake, or some locals. Occasionally I get not occasionally, but I do get a fair amount of local people.
And do you do day calls?
Yes and no.
Sometimes.
I'll get into how I break down my schedule, but and then I know that if I'm in St. Catharines, it's gonna be students, a lot of students from
weekends and
Niagara
stuff,
College
especially.
or Brock University.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm more geared to that. I let people have the aux cord so they can bump their fire mixtape.
Well, you were the first Uber driver I've seen have water in the doors.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
I do that. I make sure I got that all the time.
That was awesome.
That was an instant 5-star rating. You could have done the worst driving possible. 5 stars right away.
You could have said anything. The water. That was
there's chewing gum too. I always offer people chewing gum. I've almost developed a little spiel, and there was one person who was like, "Can I give you a tip, man?" And I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Don't do the spiel." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "I usused to drive Uber too, and blah blah blah." I'm like, that's cool and all, but you're the only person who's been like, Don't do it. And I'm like, most people fucking love it.
Yeah, I love it.
And maybe it's because they're drunk, so they're a little more relaxed and open to whatever. But I just try and be funny about things.
That's true too.
And relieve the tension, because there's always a bit of tension when you get into a car with a stranger, right?
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of the times we've gone into an Uber car, we don't even talk to the guy. He's not really receptive to us. He's just kind of oh, we're going to the falls.
He just ignores you. He's like, you're somewhere there, but not there.
Some of them are awkward, for sure.
I engage people, and I'll straight up tell people, if you don't want to talk, just say so. I'm not going to be offended. You're in my car, so I'm going to be chatty. I'm naturally chatty, right?
Yeah.
So what's your rating on there?
4.88.
Wow.
That's
nice.
If you guys look it up, it'll say 4.9.
Okay.
And what's really fucked up is I work really hard to keep that really high.
Yeah.
And it just recently dropped to 4.85.
Oh.
And it took me at least a month and a bit to get it back to 4.88.
Really?
And it's pretty much the only way to do that is to make sure that, or not to make sure, but to hope that everybody gives you 5 stars if they rate you. If they don't rate you, it doesn't count.
Okay.
But if they give you 4 stars, you're rating, like, it's a really fucked up system. I would really love to see the math behind it and how they calculate it.
Like, is it a lot easier to slip than it is to gain more?
Oh, yeah.
One bad rating?
In a moment of drunken douchebaggery, I had a guy drop my rating from 4.88 to 4.85.
That's the thing with all the drunk calls, like...
Here's the best part. They loved the service. They were happy with the water. They chewed all the fucking gum possible. They had 7 dudes, and like I only have room for 6, which is first of all bigger than it says on my profile. It says only 4. There's no Uber XL.
They're supposed to charge more if it's like don't they get like the extra big one? Or
if it's Uber XL, we don't have XL down here, and I keep telling them, I'm like, guys, like we need this down here because tourists.
It happens, yeah.
You know, bachelorette parties, bachelor parties, wedding shit. Like, So anyways, I squeeze 7 of these guys in my car, drive them from downtown St. Catharines to somewhere in Niagara on the Lake, and I'm pretty sure they're high on coke and like also drunk and wanting to order more coke because they were trying to insinuate that I should go in with them, and I'm like, no, like thanks, but no thanks. Okay. Appreciate the offer. So anyways, like they were totally cool and everything. I dropped them off, but yeah, apparently one of them decided to give me, or whoever ordered decided to give me 1 star.
Just like, I'm gonna give this guy 1 star.
Or maybe it was 2 stars. So I think if you give 1 star, you have to give a reason, or else it doesn't let you. It doesn't let you do it.
Right.
Smart,
so it might have been like 2 stars or something, just to be like, fuck that guy, you know. And little does he know, like I don't know. Maybe I take my rating more seriously than others, but I mean, having 4.88 is pretty fucking high. When you get the average driver, you're gonna see like on your end, it's gonna be like 4.7.
Yeah.
Right. So anything 4. Or it's gonna be like 4.8. For me, because I'm on the higher end of the 4.8s, it rounds up to 4.9.
Okay.
So everybody you're going to see is 4.7 or 4.8. Maybe see a 4.6, depending on the driver.
Yeah.
And if you get bad enough ratings, like they just pull your fucking thing so you can't drive for them anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If they
so
really
that's why I've never seen a 3 or anything like that. Like they just don't let them drive.
Once you get like, I think it's below 4.5, you have like a certain time period to not fuck up, I guess. Like I don't know what you're doing to get that. I mean, like you got to really suck as a driver, I think, to not be able to maintain a decent rating. But then again, you also got to contend with drunk people and knowing how the rating system works. I mean, like I said, I've spent like I could pull it up and show you like how like just like when it all happened and like how the ratings have gone up. But it's literally been like at least a month that I've been like, you know, making sure everything is perfect so that I get that 5 stars.
Yeah. Do the ratings determine anything in a positive way for you?
They don't determine anything in any sort of way except to give you an indicator of what kind of driver I may be. And you guys have a rating too.
Yeah.
But I don't give a fuck about your rating. Like, so long as it's not like super low, like if it's 3, I'm not going to pick you up probably.
Yeah.
But if you're if anywhere from 4 to 5, if you got a 5, you're a new user. I know that much. Or you barely use it. If you've got like between 4.5 and 5, I know that something's happened where you've pissed off a driver and he's giving you a bad rating.
Oh, I see.
So that's an indicator. But if you're less than 4, I'm probably not going to pick you up.
Right.
Like, or I might cancel the trip because I don't know what kind of shit you're going to pull on me. You
That's
know,
the
you've
thing.
pulled
That's
enough
really
shit to get enough bad ratings to drop you below 4. Like,
I didn't know that you rated the customers either.
Always.
I didn't know that.
I generally give people
smart.
5 stars.
Yeah.
I can't think of an instance where I haven't. Like, maybe once because the person made me wait 20 minutes for like a 5-minute ride.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go fuck yourself, man. Like come on. Like,
because that just fucks up your
well, especially if it's between. Oh, you also get this when it's surging. You'll get a request, but nobody's there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't know if
that the
taxi's
nights where
fucking with you. I don't know if it's another Uber driver fucking with you because people have multiple phones, and like I feel like there's been instances where I have been fucked with. Like I've gotten a request, I've shown up, and it's just like initials like JB or some shit, right? And I've shown up, and the phone like it goes straight to voicemail. No text messages are going through. You know, the person, there's nobody there. I'm like looking around. I'm like, fuck. Like,
so it could be another driver making sure he's getting the calls, not you, type of thing.
Maybe, or taxi drivers just fucking with us.
Oh yeah,
taxi drivers don't like us.
Right?
No, they don't.
Not at all.
And we actually had a guy. We had a driver who drove us before we got Uber a lot, and then as soon as we all got Uber because it's fucking Uber, right? Everybody has Uber, and we just stopped calling this guy. So then
And he sees us downtown
He
sometimes,
sees us
and he'll
sometimes.
just like roll down his window and he'll just wave, and we're like getting into our Uber.
yeah,
It's kind of awkward.
kind of bad. But it's like,
It's like a relationship that you left on awkward
Yeah, 'cause,
terms.
like,
You
he's
just want
really
to see
cool,
the person in your town all the time. And you're just
Yeah.
like, I
We
don't
saw-
want to see you, but like, hi, like I'll be nice.
he is a great guy, but the prices, like,
Yeah.
it just makes sense, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we saw him every weekend. Like, he drove us like Friday, Saturday night. We'd call Earl. He'd drive us to the place, and then like we just stopped using him. And then he
Yeah.
sees us sometimes. It's awkward.
And
but
then
it's fun.
he did text one of our buddies, was like, "Hey, just checking in, like, wonder where you guys are." And he had to say, like, "Yeah, man, like, well, we haven't been going out as much, first off, and like, we did get Uber, like, you can't beat it, like."
yeah. He should
I don't
just
know why. I don't know why
start
he
driving
doesn't
for
do Uber. I don't know. I've never asked him, but
yeah, he
yeah,
may as well.
at
But he's
one point-
he's charging more than Uber though.
yeah. And he did say he had over 1,000 contacts in his phone, or
Probably, yeah.
he's been doing it for 10 years. Like, I don't know. He built like a good.
customer base.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've got the same thing going on actually.
Did
know,
you do
because
private as well?
I
type of
don't
thing?
do any private driving. Like I don't, and in there, like I used to. I'll
Yeah.
admit to that. Like I used to accept the occasional cash trip. Like I'd pick up somebody in Niagara on the Lake, drop them off in the Falls, and be like, "How do we get a
Yeah.
ride back with you?" And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
Well, you know, we'll
Just
figure
text
something.
me.
Here's my number, and we'll
Okay.
figure it out.
But
Yeah.
for the insurance though,
Well,
right?
one day we got a new insurance policy, and I think it was the weekend after that day. I did a cash trip from the Falls to Niagara on the Lake, from the same like I just explained to you, and I was thinking about it the whole ride back. And I'm like, if something fucking happens, like
there's
I'm
nothing.
screwed. Like my insurance could turn like into shit. I could have the people in the car that God forbid they should get injured
Yeah.
for whatever fucking reason. Like you get T-boned by a transport, like that's a thing that happens,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And and like what, they could turn around and sue me. Uber could turn around and sue me and be like, "Oh, you're using our app to garner like
Yeah.
wages for yourself outside of the app."
Right.
All this shit. And their policy basically states now that once you're on a trip with Uber, like once you swipe to start the trip, everybody in the car is covered under the insurance that they have through Intact, I believe it is.
Okay.
Which is great.
Yeah. And I like that. And so that prevented me from doing cash trips ever again. Like $50 is not worth my
Yes, yeah.
$20, $10. Like even if it's just down the road, like it's not worth my headache.
The liability of
And
everything.
I've been in situations where somebody's needed like a lift after or something, and like I give free rides occasionally. Like I'll just be like, "Yeah, hop in. It's just around the corner. Let's
Okay.
go."
Okay.
There's these two guys I dropped off, and just as I was dropping them off, the one guy was like, "Yo, I gotta go like check in on some girl. Apparently, some guy that she was with is being an asshole or something to that effect." And they were in and around like the Merritt area, and they had to go up to Brock University, and so I gave them a free ride because I had picked them up downtown. I dropped them off there,
Yeah.
and like we were just shooting the shit in the
You know
car
I'm
because
good. Yeah.
because a lot of people like to chat with me, and so I was like, you know what, like you got to get somewhere. You're obviously going to order a taxi or Uber. You're already in my car. Let's just fucking go.
Yeah.
The one guy got out and went inside, and I took the other guy up to Brock, and I'm like, I don't want any money for it because I don't want to be charged. Like it's just like Good Samaritan type shit.
Yeah. No. Yeah. There's
So
there's not enough of that around anymore. Like that kind of.
too many people
don't hear about it
do a
much.
good deed to be recognized and rewarded for it.
Yeah.
And the whole point of doing a good deed is to not give a fuck about the
Exactly.
recognition and or a reward for it. If something happens to come of it, cool. But don't let the lack of reward prevent you from doing a good
Exactly.
deed.
If more people thought like that in this day and age, like, see a lot less bullshit.
Yeah, probably.
You probably would.
Probably.
All right, let's move towards maybe what we talked about when we were in the Uber. You told me a cool thing that you fly planes.
Yeah, I also do that.
That's sick.
So whether or not I'm flying a plane or driving a car, apparently I can't get away from transportation and or moving people
right,
from point A to point B, like on a small scale or a big scale. Like it's fucking ridiculous.
You were born to be in vehicles.
Yeah, I guess fucking transporter over here, right?
So
Just
what
call me
made
Jason
you?
Statham.
What made you want to fly a plane?
My dad's a pilot, so
Okay.
that helps, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, airplanes are really fucking cool.
They are.
Like you always see them up there, and you're like, how the fuck? Like you're
Yeah.
so big, yet you're just thousands and thousands of pounds, yet
So small down here.
yeah, exactly. And so it was just very fascinating, very, very fascinating, and learning that like as I was growing up, I wasn't colorblind, so that's a bonus. I have
Yeah.
very good eyesight, so
Yeah.
that's a bonus. relatively intelligent person, so that's also a plus. And I have eye-hand coordination and eye-hand-foot coordination because you need to use your feet.
Right.
So having all those is like, why not? Let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I joined Air Cadets when I was 13 years old, and I got right into their aviation program. Now, you're not, like, you can't do anything at 13, 14, 15. No. Once you're 16, you can. So I went through they call it ground school, and it's basically just training. And, you got more of those?
I drank the two before. I should have brought more.
Anyways, you guys can cut that out. Low key,
sorry about
sneaking
that.
in some like beer on the
Next
side.
time.
Where's my beer? So, anyways, yeah, joined Air Cadets. Can't really do much. But I did do ground school, and I did that for a few years. And in ground school, you basically it's all bookwork. You just learn about aerodynamics, theory of flight, air law, meteorology, navigation, some physics type shit. Like,
it's a lot of shit.
It's just all the basic. Yeah, it's actually,
a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's crazy how many different like subjects are all encompassed under just aviation alone. So like learning about all that at 13 and 14, some of it didn't make sense. At 15, it started clicking because it's just repetition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And then by the time I was 16, I was able to write an entrance exam, which is something that everybody in Ontario comes to write.
Wow.
And if you score really well, then your squadron will send you to a summer camp where you can learn how to fly.
That's cool.
Way.
And you learn how to fly a glider aircraft, which is basically an airplane with no engine. And there's two ways to get in the sky. One of them is to have a winch, like attached to a Jeep or fucking whatever, and it's attached to the front of the airplane. You just start the winch and it just pulls the airplane and basically just shoots it into the sky.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Never got a chance to do that.
And you're 16 at this point.
I never got a chance to do that one.
Oh, okay.
But there's also the other method where they have a tow plane, which is an airplane in front of you that has a rope attached to it, and it just, you take off together, it pulls you up into the sky, and then he wags his wings like that, and then you wag yours, and you release, and he goes back and lands, and you just fly around and try to look for what's called thermals, which is just hot air rising off of the ground.
Oh, okay.
You'll find a lot of gliding clubs out near, out in the sticks, basically.
Okay.
A lot of fields. If there's a lot of fields nearby, it's perfect because you got a dark field in the summertime. The sun's just beating down on it. You know, you're just gonna get all kinds of hot air going up there. You can get up thousands of feet. I think the record's like some 50 some odd thousand feet.
So I never knew that had anything to do with it. That's crazy.
There's a whole like gliding like community. There's like competitive gliding, all kinds of crazy shit. It's insane, dude.
It's crazy that so young they teach all these things. Like
when I was car so young.
Yeah, that's the thing too. But when I was 13, like 16, I was more worried about fucking Pokemon and shit. You know, like it sounds pretty.
Don't get me wrong. I still had my other like video game vices.
Yeah,
I grew up a gamer. I was like, I mean, like I'm 33 years old. Just to put it into perspective, so I grew up without the internet at one point, and then the internet came into my life. But also video games. Like my dad was all about like the latest technology, and like he always had like. We always had like a new computer. Right. We always had like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, shit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, he was the one who stayed up all night like smashing Super Mario Brothers until he finally like saved the princess. You know, like the original.
Yeah, because you couldn't save the game; you had to keep playing.
Couldn't save
you never thought about
you pause it, you turn the TV off, and I swear to God, if you touch that fucking power button, I will kill you. Like that's how it was.
Yeah.
You know, you don't touch the Nintendo when your fucking dad's playing.
One time, my dad got unlocked the 99 extra lives.
Oh shit!
So he's like, I can't turn it off. He's like, I got to keep playing. So this was back like when it first came out. I wasn't born yet, but he just played. He literally played for 13 hours straight, and just kept getting the new lives and just kept playing.
And then if you shut it off, all your progress is gone.
Yeah, gone.
No memory cards.
There's no such thing as saving.
Man, all that time.
There was no such thing as saving. Saving was turning the TV off and hoping that nobody fucked with it and hoping that the power didn't go out.
Like the sun just crashes or anything, right?
There's no like, let me reload the save file. Let me hope that there was like an auto save recently.
We've come so far.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. Because that's only what? Like 25 years ago? Like,
probably, yeah.
That's crazy how fast, when you really think about it, how crazy it is.
Well, it's been an exponential increase ever since technology has come out. We've found ways to make it smaller and smaller, and as it gets smaller and smaller, the ability just increases.
Yeah, it's weird.
And so we've gotten to this point where we're like up here now. It's just everything's just happening. There was I can't remember who it was. I feel like it was in a TED talk, and they were talking about why technology seems so mundane now. And they said it's the bouncing ball effect, where it's like you start with a ball up here, and as it comes down and hits the ground, every time it hits the ground, that's when there's been a major revolution. So it's just like the first bounce would be like the Bronze Age, right? And then the next bounce is going to be like the fucking, I don't know, Industrial Revolution, right, and all this shit, like the medieval, any like major like technological like advancements. And I just mean as the simple thing of like inventing a fucking wheel or tool, instead of like, you know, like learning that, we can take like, you know, two metals, mix them together and make a better metal that then is sharper, lasts long, whatever.
Like as soon as it's
created. So that's one of the bounces. And then there's the next bounce, and that would be the Industrial Revolution. And then we invented the car. And then there was something else, and then something else, you know, electricity in all the homes and all this shit. But as it goes on and everything keeps happening, you get the bounces get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where you don't even notice the bounce. Right. But there's some fucking mind-blowing technology that just came out last month, you know, that you're not going to hear about for a couple more years.
That's right.
You know, and it's like, an example of that would be like, look at the Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how long have you known about the Oculus Rift for?
Maybe like
it got really popular.
Half a year.
Yeah,
I've known about it for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a chance to invest in the starter shit, but I didn't have the money.
Oh, no way.
So I've known about it for a long fucking time, but you guys have just learned about it. So that's one of those bounces where it's like, the bounce is so small, and there's so many of them that you don't even see them anymore.
So where's the trigger for that? Because if it's been around for 5 years, like, did they just decide to throw it at us, or?
Yeah, it's all about, I guess, like what you're involved in. If you're involved in online communities of any kind, Reddit, Imgur, 4chan, like that kind of shit. I mean, you'll even find stuff like creeping into Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, but there's. I feel like Reddit and Imgur are like one of the first ports to the internet, like that people usually go to, or not that people, but like people that use the internet beyond Facebook. You know what I mean? Some people think that Facebook is the internet, for crying out loud. Yeah, we're at that day and age. That's a fucking thing. Right on the wall. But yeah, like a lot of the funny shit, a lot of memes and shit that you find that come out. Not that I'm like a huge fan. But they all start from, like, you'll find them on Reddit and Imgur first. Right. You know, I'm pretty sure that if I went on Imgur, I could grab, like, you know, a few posts out of there, and I have all the memes set for one post every day for an entire fucking year. Like, it's that easy. Like, I kid you not, there's thousands of them. Literally thousands. You can spend hours. And so, fuck, what even am I talking about?
Well, that's the thing. Like, when you see that's the thing. Like, you see a random meme, like, somebody made that. Like, you forget that, like, and it's just everybody keeps posting it.
I know where I'm going with all these fucking bounces, and so like a lot of this shit, like, you'll hear about it if you're in the know or you're in the right community. I mean, if you follow certain things on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, or even on Facebook, you'll be kept up to date. It's the same way like people follow, like, oh, this artist is my favorite. I will follow where they're doing a book signing or a gallery show or a performance, you know what I mean? And they'll keep up to date on their shit. Same thing happens with technology. I mean, look at all the people that fucking line up for hours outside of a fucking Best Buy to oh my god, let me get the new iPhone because the screen is a little bit bigger. Like,
I've never understood that. That's messed up. That people will stand out for a day to get a phone that has a couple
longer
small
than
features.
A day. Like, look at the PlayStation 2. Look at fucking Xbox 360.
Oh yeah, you camp out for almost a week.
Yeah, like I can remember people paying like almost $700 for that shit, thousands of dollars for that shit because they were the first one to get it. And you know, if rich people have the money, well, they give a fuck. $1,000 is nothing to them. Yeah, you know, if they're raking in $1 million every day, what's $1,000? They probably wipe their ass with it. Yeah, I think it's absurd.
That's one of those things you see all those Black Friday videos and people dying and riots and shit. It's like, why go shop? Like,
evolution.
It's
as far
crazy.
As I'm concerned, fucking you died. Well, guess what? You fucking rid the gene pool of whatever you see you had.
Exactly.
You know, and that's another thing. Holy fuck, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, that's another.
I can fucking talk about for hours. Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. There's a show called Westworld. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Fantastic fucking show. There's a line in it that I think Anthony Hopkins says, and he says that like evolution has like used one tool to define all that is on this planet, and that's mistake. You know, like every mistake that gets made is another like thing for evolution to. You know, that's the only tool it has.
That's true.
You know, if you fuck up and you die, then you die.
Now
like, look at all the animals out there. Like you got like goats walking on fucking cliff faces that are like fucking inverted almost.
Yeah, they're like
they're
somehow
like this,
sticking
and
to the
somehow
rock.
just like walking up the cliff. And you're, "Wow." But when they're
just
born,
doing
they
it.
have 20 minutes to figure out how their legs work.
Yeah.
At which point they've got like another 20 minutes to figure out how to climb the fucking wall. And if you don't make it, you're dead. And if you die, guess what? Your stupidity doesn't continue on in the gene pool.
The rest of the goats are like, hey, that guy fucking fell. Like, let's not do that.
Yeah. Or you're uncoordinated. If
Yeah.
you have the
Oh, yeah.
coordination,
That's the thing, too.
Then your lack of coordination doesn't get a chance to continue on because you made a mistake. Your gene pool your genetics and evolution made a mistake and gave you the inability to climb a fucking wall. So
So when you simplify it like that, it's like you see it more in the greater scheme, like the Black Friday things, the things you hear about, like really it's the same thing. Like it makes sense.
I'm not saying like, oh god, there's like the whole eugenics can of worms that comes out of that.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole like morality and
and
who decides and how do you know what's right? And that's another day. Another day when there's beer.
True. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you don't really notice the evolutions as much anymore because everything's so watered down.
Yeah.
It's just that everything's moving so fast that we don't really notice.
Yeah, there's that too. Everything moves so fast, and even information travels so much faster than it used to. And this is an interesting thing, I think, is you look at back in the day, there's a lot of manipulation of the media, but today it's harder to do that because media travels faster than it can be manipulated.
Yeah, and everybody knows everything now because it's so instant,
so shared.
And it's right away.
Oh, yeah.
You tweet, it's on there. You say something, it's on there.
Somebody on the other side of the world is liking an Instagram photo that you put up because it just happened to show up in their feed because they clicked on something that they were interested in and you happen to post something that. And so they like it, and next thing you know, you got a follower from like Zagreb, and you're like, what?
There's always those couple that you randomly get like out of your. Like I have like 60 followers. It's like, who the hell is this? Like, how did they find me? Like, why did they find me? Like,
I think it's hilarious.
It's weird.
Like
man.
they just like and then you always get that one person that always likes your stuff. And you have that one
Yeah.
likes everything you post.
Your first
you can post a fucking turd. No problem. But anyways, we got to get all the way back to fucking flying.
Right. That's where we started. That's the beauty of this podcast.
So how long were you in that gliding camp for?
Okay,
like how long were you in there?
So basically what happened there is I wrote the exam and I placed second in Ontario.
That's awesome.
And the guy who placed first also happened to be from my squadron.
Oh, no way.
So, because the size of the squadron determines how many people that the squadron can send to this camp, meant that I didn't get to go. Thankfully, the squadron has a committee that raises funds for instances such as this, but also for other things. For instances such as this, because there is sort of an unofficial civilian / cadet camp that you go to out near Orangeville, just outside of Orangeville, between Orangeville and Arthur. There's a little airstrip there, and they do a lot of gliding out there, tons of gliding. And so basically, me and another kid from my squadron who also did well, but not nearly as well as me and the first kid, we got sent to this camp because they had enough money to send two of us because they were already sending the other guy to the sanctioned Air Cadet camp. Right. So I got my glider license done in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So in 2 weeks, I went from some fucking non-flying peasant to a peasant with a glider pilot's license.
And your age at this point?
16 still.
Okay.
How long does it usually take to do
Well, it takes the Air Cadet summer camp people, like the official Air Cadet camp, 6 weeks.
6 weeks?
But they do 4 months of ground school, and like there's like they weed out a few people.
And to clarify, gliding from flying, just to
flying is flying, gliding is flying. Still,
it's just no engine, right?
An airplane without an engine. So the power of lift exists because you have wings.
Makes sense.
And you have like weight and drag because you're contending with gravity, and you're an airplane, but you have no power.
Right.
Your power comes from the thermals that lift you up.
So a flying license is a whole separate, or another step up?
Still it's a glider pilot's license, and then a private pilot's license is your next step.
Okay.
Some people don't do the gliding thing because they never did Air Cadets. Air Cadets, your first stage is usually always the glider. Right. Like, you don't just jump into a private license without your glider license.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I got my license. The next year, I did the... I was going to do the what's it called? The private pilot license.
Okay.
Same thing happened. We were allowed 2 spots this year, and this time I placed 5th in Ontario for the entrance exam, and 1st and 2nd were 2 other people from my squadron.
Some squadron you're in, huh?
You're in an elite squadron.
Like, without sounding racist, where I grew up, Markham turned into a massive Chinese community.
Okay.
And for everything that you're good at, there's 10 Asian people better than you.
That's
Like, and they're probably fucking children too.
That's right.
So, I mean, and like I don't want that to sound bad, but it's the fucking truth. That's legitimately what happened. I got beat out by some Asian kids in my squadron. They're better at it than me. Fine. Like I came in 5th in all of Ontario, so like suck my dick kind of thing, right? Like 5th in Ontario is pretty baller. Yeah. Especially at the age of 17.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happened, and thankfully that committee had set aside some money, and they sent me to a civilian private pilot course, which happened to be at an airport not far from my house in Markham.
That worked out good.
Yeah, it worked out nice.
Worked out amazing. I got it done in just under 2 months, which is the same time that they have to do the program with the Air Cadets, and yeah, all was well. It was awesome because I didn't have to worry about wearing a uniform, shaving, keeping my hair clean,
right?
Like perfectly,
like the cadets
whatever. Thing, I could just show up in whatever I wanted. It wasn't all regimented. It made it a lot easier, I think. Plus, my instructor was pretty hot at the time, so bonus. Yeah.
That's a cherry on top.
Female instructor. You don't get many of those, especially good-looking ones. So
this is your private. This is your private license.
Private pilot license.
This
allows me. This would allow me to fly an airplane with 1 engine and 4 passengers.
Okay.
Or 2 or 4 passengers,
depending
on the aircraft. So, 17 years old, I've got this license. I can now fly an airplane.
And not many 17-year-olds.
Here's the best part. I only had my G1 at the time. I didn't have my G2.
Oh, that's amazing.
So the government did not by government standards, I wasn't allowed to drive a car by myself, but I could fly an airplane. That's totally
with 4 other people.
That makes sense.
3.
3.
One
okay.
Right. Plus 3. So,
makes sense, right?
Whenever I wanted to go flying, like my mom would get in the car
You
with
have
me.
to get dropped.
I would drive, and she would sit there because I had to be supervised. Right. And then I would go get in the airplane, bomb around the city, like do the city tour where you take off, you fly down around the CN Tower, up around the bluffs and shit. And then I'd bomb up north to like fucking Muskoka, and then I would come back. Like,
that scenario
like
itself
2 hours.
Goes to show, like, come on, like some government things.
But then I would land, and I would get in the car with my mom, and I would have to drive home with her, and she's like, "This is ridiculous," and I was like, "I know."
I just flew a goddamn plane.
Like I was just flying around like Ontario for like 2 hours, like not even just Toronto, I'm up to like Muskoka, across to Peterborough and shit like that. Like I'm not just in the GTA,
No.
I'm in fucking Ontario. Like,
how long would it take you to whip down to those parts, Muskoka and Peterborough?
If I went from Markham to Muskoka, 40-45 minutes maybe. Depending on weather, if the weather's good, if you got a tailwind, you got it's awesome because it's pushing you, helping you go faster. Okay. A headwind's going to slow you down.
And you probably know more about this. Like, are you always being watched as soon as you're in the air? Like,
yes and no.
Radar type of thing.
Yes and no.
Yes and
if you make contact with a tower, like for us, there was it was like basically there's nobody manning the radio at the airfield.
Okay.
So you just call like a radio,
yeah,
and you would just be like, yeah, Markham Unicom. Unicom is the name of, I don't know, I guess what they would just call it, where there's nobody manning it, and so basically you're communicating to anybody on the ground or anybody in the air in the general vicinity, indicating your instructions, or not your instructions, your intentions.
Yeah.
And what you intend, like what you're planning to do,
okay,
where you're planning to go. Basically, they just say who you are, where you are, what you want to do.
Okay. And
so
you just say you're
like,
coming through.
I am, you'd be like, oh, Markham area traffic or Markham Unicom. Cessna 172, Charlie Golf Victor Bravo. Like you got to say the registration,
right, in
the phonetic alphabet. Like, is 2,500 feet, 3 miles away from the field, and I'm going to cross over at circuit altitude and land on this runway.
It's crazy, all that responsibility at 17. You're talking to these airline people and get on the ground, get in the car, and your mom has to be there.
Yeah, I never even really thought of it.
It's crazy.
Never even really thought of it. I can remember going solo my first time, and that was like when you take the airplane up, and my instructor's like probably shitting herself on the ground.
Fuck.
Because I didn't know this at the time, but I was her first student ever.
Oh wow!
Really?
Yeah,
No
I was her
way.
first student ever.
Oh, shit.
And
Well, yeah, she's probably nervous.
In typical 17-year-old suave fashion, at one time, when I got a little bit comfortable with her, we're in the airplane. I was like, "So, what's a nice girl like you doing a shitty airplane like this?" Trying to hit on my instructor. Fucking blushed a little bit and was like, "Yeah, still got it." I'm only 17, but I still got it.
Did you have that sick ass mustache when you?
I couldn't grow facial hair to save my life. Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she was like losing her mind. But I went solo, and then they dumped a bucket of water on you, and that's pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
It's a tradition. Whenever you go solo, like you come back and somebody dumps a bucket of water on you.
Oh, beautiful.
How far did you go for your first solo?
Oh, you don't go far at all. You just take off and you join the circuit. The circuit is basically a rectangular pattern. Like if you imagine a race car track, it's like that. Except one side of the race car track is where you take off and land, and you make it a rectangular pattern. So you take off, and then you hang a left or a right turn depending on like at a certain altitude, and depending on which direction the circuits are for the runway that you're using, because they change based on many things. I don't even want to get into it. You take off, and let's say you hang a left turn, so you're in your crosswind leg, and then you don't go very far. You're sort of like looking out, and you're waiting until like for example, so like you take off, you turn left, so the runway is here. You're turning left like this, and you're looking till you got about a 45-degree angle from the end of the runway to where you're positioned. You hang another left turn. So now you're in your downwind leg. And your downwind leg is where you're like judging the field, whether or not you're being blown away from it or closer to it, depending on the weather. So you got to compensate for that. And you're also just setting the airplane up to land. So you're making sure your lights are on, this, that, and the other. And of course, if you've got retractable gear, you'd want to make sure the gear's fucking down. Because you can't land an airplane with it. Yeah. Well, you can. Taking off might be a bit of a pain in the ass. So yeah, you're in your downwind leg, and then you hang another left turn once you've, again, 45-degree angle from the runway. And you're on your base leg, and that's where you start to descend. Like, at the end of your downwind, you want to be slow enough that you can start putting down your flaps, or that you have some flaps down at this point. Because flaps, while they increase the surface area of the wing, it allows you to go slower. Like, it basically stay, in the air without descending at a slower speed.
Okay. So,
however, the farther you extend them, full flaps it's basically gonna like you're gonna sink, because it increases the surface area so much that it causes so much drag that it helps you get to the ground at a very slow speed. So you're not coming in at like 100 miles an hour being like, wah, Right. That's okay for big airplanes. For small airplanes, like you want to be coming in at like 80, 100 knots. So I can't even do the math in my head right now. Anyways,
would you say landing the plane is like the hardest part? Or
landing's always the hardest part. The airplane will take itself off if you let it.
Right.
If you put full power and you get out of the airplane, it'll take off.
Okay.
Because it's got the power.
Makes sense.
And it's generating lift now because it's got the power. Mm-hmm. But it'll keep flying until like it upsets itself and it spirals out of control, or until it crashes and runs out of gas. I mean, an airplane will fucking fly.
Because those crazy scenarios where, like movie scenarios where the pilot's injured or can't land the plane and somebody has to land the plane, like how hard would it actually be to like radio somebody with instructions
this is
how to land?
This is fascinating. If you have some experience flying, you probably got a pretty good chance.
Okay.
The really interesting thing is the air traffic controller that you're dealing with is skilled enough, or there's somebody there that's skilled enough to instruct you on what to do no matter what airplane you're flying. Like, I'm talking jets now at this point. To instruct you and tell you what to do and when to do it, so that you will land safe enough that everybody on board.
Like somebody with a well-headed...
They proved it on Mythbusters. Jamie and Adam go into a simulator and try and do the landing without any help, no prior knowledge, just trying to land it. Both of them crashed. Then they did it with the help from air traffic control, and they both landed with basically like the airplane didn't crash on landing, and there's no fire, there was no smoke. It just they landed. Wasn't the best landing, wasn't like the smoothest landing, but the airplane was on the ground safely and everybody would have
No
landed.
way. Okay.
So it's fully possible for that to happen. I think that's fucking phenomenal.
That's
doable.
It's good to hear.
And a lot of people ask me this question, and it's funny because like low key, I'm like, I want something to go wrong so I can fly the plane, right?
Like when you're just
like yo, let me fly this fucking plane. But I usually just go to sleep.
Yeah,
I don't like to screw around because with my luck I would get drunk and be like, let me fly the plane while I'm banging on the fucking door.
I'm a pilot,
you know.
I know how.
I'm fly. I can pilot. Let me fly the fucking plane.
Next thing you know, you're in cuffs in the back.
Yeah, I'm getting arrested. There happens to be some like Fed on board with a gun that has rubber bullets.
I wanted to ask that. Like, I don't know if, like, obviously you might not know as much as like about air marshals. Like, is there one on every flight? Do you know anything about that?
Wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know, eh? That's weird.
No, that's the whole point.
Yeah, like, exactly. It makes sense.
It's because when you don't know, or when people don't think it's there, is when they're most likely going to do it. That's why cops like to hide behind shit and catch you speeding, because they know.
Yeah.
Just like you know, if you don't see a fucking cop, that speed limit is like give or take 20 clicks, right?
Yeah,
like,
but then if you're on the highway and you see a cop and you like slam on your brakes to go.
No, that's what you need to get the app Waze for. Man.
Yeah,
you gotta get Waze because Waze.
We've used to that.
I use that
fucking
before.
love that. I use that when I'm driving Uber all the time.
That's still a big. Is that still big Waze?
Oh yeah, I love it. But it's been bought by Google, so now it's like things are updated on Google Maps, and it says brought to you by Waze.
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah,
I can see that becoming a bigger thing, like just
nice.
Drivers being helping each other.
But then it also comes down to like you distracted driving at the same time. Like you're gonna report everything you see. How good are you at driving a car and doing other things? I mean, like I'm not gonna say that like I'm perfect and the best driver. I'm a pretty good driver, I like to think. However, I do think that I am more capable than the average person of operating a device while fucking driving. You know, I think I would hazard to say that I'm more qualified than a lot of the fucking cops that you see driving around, dicking around on their laptop. Like I legitimately saw one police officer in Toronto, like she was like doing whatever the fuck she was doing. We're at lights. It could be a dude too. I mean, like let's be real. I'm just saying it was she because that's the truth of the story. She was dicking around on her laptop, didn't notice that the light had changed, and like I'm behind her, and I'm like, do you honk at a cop? Like, what do you do? What's the protocol here? Like, I'm not gonna honk at you because next thing you know, I'm in cuffs doing like fucking 5 to 10 for aggravated assault. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Things change quick.
Exactly. Yeah, it fucking escalates like so quickly. So anyways, then she realizes what's going on, fucking slams on the gas, pulls forward, and like she's still like I can see her head doing this, hits the curb, jumps the curb, and then just cranks the wheel and pulls onto the fucking grass and just parks.
What the fuck?
And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, how about fucking drive? Or because you're a cop, pop your fucking cherries and four-ways on and make people go around you. Put a little arrow up that go, go around. Like do your fucking job without endangering yourself and people around you. Yeah. Jumping curbs, crossing sidewalks. Who the fuck are you?
That's an awkward situation because you can't honk. You don't honk. Like I'm sure you can honk at a cop, but you don't. You just don't do it.
It's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk.
Exactly.
If you're a ballsy guy, I mean, I don't know. Like,
well, our buddy flashed lights at undercover cop one time. He didn't know it was a cop, and then they turned their lights on, and he got pulled over. But nothing happened of it. I think it was more like, why are you flashing? Like, are you in danger? But like, he didn't like that. He was trying to pass him. He was going too slow. Right? So
it's an awkward situation because you can't get mad at them. Like, that's crazy. Like, they flew on the curb on the grass. Like, that's.
I can see it happening. I'm like behind, and I'm just slowly going through the intersection. She peeled through it, and it's a pretty big intersection. So it's 3 lanes, so there's lots of shit going on, and I'm just like, well, she's crazy. And then all of a sudden, fucking curb, one wheel goes up, and then she just cranks it so the other wheel just pulls up onto the fucking. It was like, holy shit, man. Wow, like, what is going on?
Going back to the air marshal thing, I'm always the guy. Like any flight I've been on, I just distract myself by trying to figure out which one's the air marshal, like how are they acting. Like, so I'll always ask anybody who's might have an idea or something because I find that so cool. I watched what's that one movie with Liam Neeson?
Oh yeah.
I fucking love that
Taken?
movie.
It was the one
where he's on the plane and he is the air marshal. But I'm fascinated.
I have no idea.
What's it called? Minutes. Braden, you know what it's called? What? The Liam Neeson movie where he's on the plane. Come on, it's on Netflix.
I mean, like we all have internet here, so we can probably
somebody look it up.
Like we have the entirety.
Not that matters.
Like the world's knowledge in our fucking hands.
Non-stop. Yes.
Non-stop.
That's what it's called. You haven't seen it, eh?
No, I try, honestly, it's not that I purposefully stay away from them, but I think, like, subconsciously, I'm just like, I don't want to fucking watch flying movies, because like, the airplane you see the taking off is different from the inside of the airplane that they're showing you,
right,
is different from the airplane that's landing. You know, and it's just like, and then they say all kinds of inane shit, and you're just like,
none of that means anything.
But everybody has that with everything. Like talk to a nurse or a doctor that watches ER. They're like, fuck that shit. Everything's wrong. None of that's real.
Yeah, that's so true, though.
I never thought about it.
Talk to any cop watching some, like, NYPD Blue type shit. Talk to any lawyer watching fucking Law and Order SUV or whatever the fuck it's called. SVU. There we go. Law and Order. Like everybody hates watching something, like servers watching fucking like movies that have to do with like
a scene in
like restaurants and shit like that, like or chefs watching shit going on in kitchens, like
so
because you're like, oh, this is not how it would be, this is not how it works, this isn't right, that's not right, and then immediately you're like, fuck this shit, I'm above it. You know,
they don't know what they're talking about.
So like things like that movie Flight with Denzel Washington was pretty extravagant. I mean, it never happened. It's not based on a true story. None of that's fucking real. Aside from the fact that there's probably pilots out there with alcohol and drug problems, and I know this for a fact. Yeah. But yeah, it's completely bogus. Like 100%.
I never
bogus.
put myself in those shoes. I never thought about it. That's true. Makes sense.
But I mean, whatever whatever you guys get into. Like later on, whatever you've been doing for a while, then you see somebody doing it on TV, you're gonna feel the same way. Like, fuck that shit.
They're not.
They don't get it.
Yeah.
So did you ever end up getting into a career in being a pilot?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's the biggest plane you've flown?
Airbus A320.
And
so
that
it's
is
about 100. I think max is at 169 people, depending on the configuration.
What's the popular one? 747.
747 is pretty popular. Okay, A320.
That's the only one I know.
A320 is the most popular airplane in the world. It's the single most used, like widely used airplane, along with the 737. Now the 737 isn't as widely used as the A320. The difference between them, not very much, except for the manufacturer. It's like fucking Ford versus Peugeot or Citroen, or like it's basically America versus Europe. Boeing is American, or is North American based, and Airbus gets its, like, they're based in Toulouse, France, and they get parts from all over Europe.
Okay.
Like, I think in England they make something, in Netherlands they make something, in Germany they make another part, and then like in Toulouse they do all of, like, I think they do the assembly, and they do testing and shit like that. And that's where they keep their big fucking belugas and shit. And the beluga is basically an airplane that's got like this bubble on top like this, and they transport fucking wings in that shit. So like wings of other aircraft are like in this one fucking airplane.
So were you a commercial pilot then?
Yeah, I did. So after Air Cadets was fantastic. Did all kinds of flying. It was really cool. Being in high school and being like, yeah, I can fly fucking planes.
Yeah, you're probably the fucking coolest guy there.
Wasn't the coolest.
No?
Definitely wasn't the coolest.
I would have
Air Cadets didn't make me all that cool.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
But, like, you know, in hindsight, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it saved me almost probably $30,000 to $40,000 of, like, my own money, which is what it would have cost probably to do all of that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that, I sort of continued on with the flying. I gave it up for a little bit because I was like, let me see what else there is for me. Like, what else is out there? And then I was like, out there sucks. Flying's better. But also, like, I got older and more mature, and I saw things like, my father he's pretty, I'm not going to say he's well-renowned, but, like, in certain circles in the aviation industry, he is a highly respected person.
Okay.
He's also sought after by government agencies at this point in his career. Okay. He's got, like, people coming to him. ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization of Canada, has been, like, talking with him. They've wanted him to come work for them for years.
Okay.
But he never really had interest in that. He liked to do, like, fun stuff, like he did his big flying, but he liked to do fun, like, smaller things, like starting airlines and working with startup companies and shit. But anyways, seeing, like, what he was able to accomplish what he was able to afford, how he was able to provide for the family and shit like that, and like the traveling. You know, I was like, fuck, like I want that. I want to be able to do that. Like that's cool as shit. Like like I would love to be able to provide for my family. Flying allows me that avenue. I mean, I'm sure I could do another job and provide. Yeah. But with the same amount of money, no.
That's the thing.
Travel. I don't have to pay for traveling.
Yeah, clearly not.
You know, hopefully. I mean, like, not all the time. I mean, even as pilots, we still pay for tickets. It's not always free all the time. Okay. We still pay for tickets. And there's a lot of companies we don't get discounts with. It's like, they're like, okay, you're a pilot. Cool, go fuck yourself. Like you just still pay full price.
Really? And you're flying the fucking thing?
No, not when you're flying.
Getting to the...
No, I'm talking as a passenger.
Oh, okay.
No. When you're flying,
I got confused there.
You're getting paid to fly. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I got confused because maybe some of the listeners might have. So
yeah, somebody might have. Yeah, well, I guess I wasn't being too clear on that. But yeah, so like all these little things, and I was like, you know, I want that. I want to be able to like travel around and see the world. I was spoiled as a kid being able to travel so much. You know, that like as I got older, I was like, okay, I've got this lifestyle now that I need to figure out how to uphold.
Right.
You know, not saying that I was super fancy when I was 13, but like. I'd been to a lot of fucking countries at the age of, like at the age of 11. My mom put me on a plane to France to go meet my dad. Oh wow! You know, and he didn't show up for 2 fucking days. So I'm 11 in France, like in Paris, by myself.
What you do just?
Well, thankfully he knew, like, because obviously he can't do anything. He's stuck in India trying to get from India to Paris. Right. And so he got in touch with a flight attendant that he knew, and so there's this really cute French flight attendant waiting for me, wearing like fucking mini skirt, a tight top, and I'm just like,
you have good luck with that, eh?
Oh, dude, like fuck, man, it was amazing. My dad and I, we have this like, there's this constant running joke. I'll come back to that. So anyways, yeah, this really hot flight attendant's waiting for me, and she's just like, yeah, your dad's like, you know, this, that, and the other, and whatever, and like who knows? I could have been kidnapped. And I'm just like, all right, cool, you're hot, let's go.
Yeah, sure.
Like I'm 11, but I knew what hot was. So like that's the thing. I knew a body when I saw one. And then she took me and bought me like candy and shit like that. Took me back to the hotel room and like fucking hung out for a bit. And I think it was like Tom and Jerry marathon or like a James Bond marathon. It was one or the other. Yeah. Like traveling every fucking hotel I stayed in, there's either Tom and Jerry marathon or James Bond marathon. And I'm down with either of those. Tom and Jerry's the shit.
It's clutch.
It's fucking, yeah, it's classic as fuck. And then James Bond, like,
can't beat James Bond.
Fucking 7 James Bond movies in a row, like fucking.
That'll entertain you.
Do not disturb sign on the door. Like I got my night cut out for me. Like it's my day and night done. Yeah. But yeah, and then like he eventually showed up, and then it's just really funny. I don't know. I guess the good thing is number one, I wasn't a little shit all the time, so my parents trusted me enough to put me on an airplane where I was sitting in business class, no less, as an 11-year-old, and not fuck shit up, you know.
Yeah,
flight attendants loved me. They thought I was fantastic. I was the easiest. Like I was called an unaccompanied minor because it was British Airways. British Airways. But yeah, so like I was exposed to traveling at an early age, always going places. Like I've been all throughout Europe. I've been to a lot of Asian countries now.
Wow.
So yeah, like all these little things added up to me thinking like fucking flying is where it's at.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to go back to school for it because I already know how to do it.
Right.
I'm good at it. Or so people tell me. I try not to let that get to my head. But I do. I do let it get to my head sometimes. Because hey, you got to be proud of yourself for your accomplishments, what you're able to do. I mean, that it's healthy. It's part of being healthy. Yeah, and then so I went back to flying and I looked into, you know, options, what to do, and I completed my so after your private pilot license, you're going to want to get your night rating. Your night rating allows you to fly at night.
Okay.
And that's a lot of fucking fun. I mean, like you think like gin works on, like, you know, on ladies, fucking taking them up flying at night, flying around the city of Toronto, around the CN Tower.
Yeah.
Like fuck, you want to get laid? Like holy shit, man. Like even as somebody who doesn't fly, like you got the cash and you want to spend some like fucking money on a girl, spend it on like a 30-minute flight around the CN Tower or an hour.
Yeah, that'd be such a cool date for her.
Dude, oh yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Love doing that. loved.
Well, that's a whole other thing. Like, hey, like, yeah, like I fly, like I can fly. Like, I can take you up there.
Pretty much like saying you're like in,
like it's a girls.
Like in the NHL, like all the NHL hockey players. Then you got your pilots. Then you got your pilots.
Yeah. Well, you get that with doctors and lawyers and shit like that too. I mean, it depends on the industry, but you're always gonna have.
But pilots have that like adventure kind of.
Yeah, there's a mysteriousness to it because it's like, oh well, for work today, like I've got to go to Jamaica.
Yeah, like that's cool.
You know, like you have so many stories.
Like I've got a buddy of mine, and like he works for Air Canada, and like I would love to work for Air Canada, but at the same time I don't want to, and that's a different reason. He'll just be like, you know, like, oh, having lunch in Jamaica, like, you know, dinner in Toronto, like, because like he wakes up in Toronto, picks up the airplane, flies into Jamaica and back twice, and then lands in Toronto. He's done, or he just does one trip because I think it's like 4 hours. So yeah, it would just be there and back, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, and that's usually how it is. Like, a lot of people think the pilot stays there with you. Like, he gets off the airplane and it's like vacay time for him too. No,
he dips right away, right?
We just like, we load up the airplane, we take off again, we go home. Mm-hmm. That's it's like driving transport or a fucking bus or something like that. Like, it's legit like the same thing. Like, we're literally public transport, like, as far as I'm concerned.
Except to different continents.
Yeah. Back to the recognizing hot chicks thing. Me and my dad have always had this thing. He always gets stuck next to the person who doesn't fit in the seat, you know. and he's like, it's always going to be some like old person, some ugly chick that I don't want to sit next to, or some fat person. He's like, it's just always taking. He's old school and he's a bit of a curmudgeon.
Oh yeah.
But we love him for
That's
it.
hilarious.
But then, unfortunately for him, whenever I go flying, there's like 9 times out of 10, there's usually somebody who's not going to bother me, or it's a hot chick sitting next to me. And like, there's one time he gave up his seat for me.
Wow.
And then got really mad because I was next to the hot chick.
In his seat?
And he was next to somebody with a fucking baby. And this is before anything happened. Like, we're both on the airplane, and he wanted my seat for his own personal reasons because he liked it better than the seat he was in, even though it's pretty much the same fucking seat, whatever. So I was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like, you don't like no hissy fits here. Like, just fucking we'll swap seats.
Yeah.
And then he was just like he kicked my chair after everybody else came in and sat down, and I turned back and he's like.
That's awesome.
Just shaking his fist at me, fucking dying. I'm trying not to laugh because like this is like gorgeous girl next to me, and I'm trying not to fucking laugh.
It cool.
And yeah, good times. But it always happens that way.
That's awesome.
So then, night rating. After that, you want to work on your commercial license. Your commercial license is what you can then use to apply for jobs. Without a commercial license, you cannot get paid to fly.
Right. Okay.
So you get that done, and in your commercial license, you got to have 200 hours of flying time. Okay. So usually by the time you're done your private license and your night rating and you're working on your commercial and you're doing all the training, you're going to get to about 150 hours. You want to get like at about 150 to 200 hours is when you're looking at doing your multi-engine rating too. You're going to want to do an instrument rating as well. Now your multi-engine rating allows you to fly an airplane with more than one engine. There's things to learn about that because you got, instead of one engine in front of you, you got one on each wing. And if one dies, like, you got added weight on one wing and extra power and lift on the other wing. Right. So, like, it can put you upside down pretty fucking quickly. Right. So these are small things that you have to learn. And then also, like, do the propellers rotate in the same direction or are they counter-rotating? Because that changes the ballgame as well. So it's, like, little things like that you have to know. Then moving on from that, you get your commercial and you get your multi-engine rating. Then you want to get your multi-engine instrument rating so you can fly a multi-engine airplane in shitty weather. Because your instrument rating allows you to fly blind. That makes sense. Basically, you're looking at the instrument. It's like imagine driving in fog but being able to know and see where you're going on the road. You know, we're running out of time.
We're approaching the 1 hour mark. We'll probably
that one quick.
What we'll probably do is we'll probably split it up into like a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we could totally do that.
Yeah. That's fine. So we can talk for like another 5 minutes. So we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So basically, at the end of my training, I started applying for jobs. And then, that'd be a perfect spot to leave it. I spent 4 years working construction and part-time at a funeral home, while I was applying for jobs all over Canada. Pick a job, I fucking applied. Nothing. United States, I applied nothing. Like, I applied wherever I could.
With the commercial...
With everything, and I even went and paid for my float rating so I could fly, you know, like an airplane like that was on float. So I never wanted to go camping so badly in my life until I was on a float plane and I landed on a lake that nobody can get to.
Wow.
There's no like road access to this fucking lake. Yeah. I'm the only one on this lake. I don't know when the last time anybody set foot in that fucking lake. And I'm just like...
You're in it, yeah.
Like, holy fuck, like, I want to go camping so
That's
bad.
Awesome.
So I did that. I paid for that, too.
Wow.
To try and make myself more, you know, a more viable candidate. That's 4 years of nothing.
Really?
And then eventually something happened where I got word of an opportunity in Hong Kong. Huh. And I pretty much jumped at that opportunity.
Nice.
And then that leads me into the whole Asian chapter of my life. Which brings me to the point I'm at now.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's a story for next time.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, well,
thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, that was really interesting for everyone who's going to listen to this. They'll find this really interesting.
And if anybody has questions, I mean, like, I don't know if you guys have a forum or something that, like, people can add, like, a way that people can, like,
we're on
post
Facebook,
questions.
we're on Twitter, everything,
If anybody has questions, I'd be more than happy to answer questions. You know, about flying, about my career, about driving Uber, whatever the fuck. Like,
it sounds like you have a lot of stories. Like, we could probably talk for, like, 5 hours.
It'd end up with, like, a 5-part series.
Yeah. Like, I was just having...
The end of part 2, it's like, well, we're going to have to make a 3rd part, so...
Like, I was having fun just sitting here listening to it. It's so interesting.
I didn't even know it was an hour.
I didn't realize it was an hour either. I'm glad you guys find it entertaining.
Because we've never talked to a pilot before, and I'm sure not a lot of people don't, like... I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, I've never known as much as I do now.
See, I always see one or the other. It's either the person has never met a pilot, never talked to a pilot in their life, or they are married to one, related to one, know one, and they know everything.
They don't want to know
rarely
anymore.
anything in between.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's weird. But anyways, thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Jamie's going to plug us quick.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and listen to all our stuff on SoundCloud.
We appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next time.
All right.
Take care.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky.